Tricks and Traps is one of Doom 2's more unique outings. As a kid, this level fascinated me, so much so that I would return frequently just to explore, have fun, and ultimately see if I could find anything interesting to discover. It's a level that challenges the player in unique ways, even daring to lean into mean territory. It's a level that's stuffed with huge hordes of enemies who waste no time barreling down on the player if they're careless. It's also a level that plays by its own rules and is defined more by the desire to shock and awe than match the experience of the previous levels, for better or worse. I still appreciate all these years later what this level was trying to achieve. It's definitely one of Doom 2's more unique outings and is hugely memorable because of what it does. You also have to remember that levels like this weren't common in retail Doom. Doom 1 arguably only had one similar level to this, Inferno's secret outing Warrens. Doom 2 has several that are similar, but I'd argue that the likes of Barrels of Fun don't come close to matching Tricks or Traps in terms of quality. Tricks and Traps may split opinions, but there's one thing you can't say about it: it's definitely not boring. When the player is dropped into the experience, they're encircled by many doors, most of which are accessible straight away. Here's the thing, there isn't a wrong answer in which direction the player can choose. Open one door and you'll be greeted by a lone shotgunner, attack him and you'll alert an entire swarm of cacodemons. Behind another door you'll find a small army of imps, all waiting to eagerly jump the player and take them down. This non-linear opening is unique among Doom levels, affording the player a great range of options in how they want to tackle the level. And here's the thing, when you talk to people about how they tackle this level, everyone has a different approach. Eventually players who explore will find that the rooms contain not only traps but the tools by which they can escape them. That Cacodemon room, it has a plasma rifle and ammo to help the player eradicate the Caco problem. The room with all those imps, there's a shotgun and enough shells inside to dispatch of all the incoming swarm. Even the room that many people remember from this one is designed in such a way that patient players will be richly rewarded. Stumble into this one and you'll find a Cyberdemon with oh so many Barons of Hell. The issue here is that there's no way you can fight them all, they outnumber you by a ridiculous ratio. Engage them by shooting and they'll start teleporting out back to the central area. They'll become your worst nightmare as you try to deal with that Cyberdemon at the same time. Instead, smart players will let the Cyberdemon do all the work. Let his wandering rockets annoy the Barons so much that they'll see to that Cyberdemon in no time. If you feel nervous, the room even has an invulnerability inside to calm your nerves. I always like to play a game of which side wins here, the Cyberdemon or the Barons. The level is stuffed with traps that catch the unready players off guard, but as you explore deeper and deal with the situations, the level rewards those who play by its rules. You're thrown into an encounter that will have you work to escape. It's intense, it's fun, but it's also fair. There's a ton of rockets and ammo for the player to grab, and invulnerability is here if things get too spicy. And that's the thing with Tricks and Traps. Weapons aren't too hard to get hold of, and using them wisely will see you easily make it through the experience. Plus, let's be fair, if players don't want to explore most of this level, they don't have to. And of course a level like this isn't going to be to everyone's taste. It feels less like a place on Earth and more video gamey in design. It exists not as a real space but as a level that wants you to have fun. I'd also argue that at certain points it leans too heavily into the tormenting the player territory. The last room behind the red door is pretty awful and is just outright mean, with a falling floor guaranteeing a level restart if the player fails to make it to the end. I will also admit that I feel this level would work much better as a secret level, and I think had id Software not made the decision to load up both the secret levels in Doom 2 with Wolfenstein 3D tributes, Tricks and Traps would have made an excellent secret level, but I also think that it serves an important purpose for Doom 2. It's the first level where you can nab a BFG 9000 without cheating, and it also introduces the Pain Elemental, arguably much better than the next level where they show up, where in classic Doom they can't even shoot lost souls at you at the start of the level. Overall, I'm a fan of Tricks and Traps. It's a level that captivated me in my youth, and even now I still get a cheeky grin playing through it. The traps are a bit more predictable these days, and the layout of the level is a bit confusing at times, but for me, this is an experimental level that hits the right notes. Sandy Peterson's levels come in for critique sometimes, but I really like Tricks and Traps. It's a level that never fails to make me smile, and all these years later, I still find myself going back just to have a good time in it. I thought it'd be fun to go through the level and just showcase how I tackle it, showing off the things that I find interesting and discussing the level as I kind of explore. The thing about Tricks and Traps is that when you enter the level, you're greeted by all of these doors. Now, this is the first time I can think of where you're actually given sort of this level of choice. You can go into any of these doors and you have no idea as a new player what is behind these doors. And that sense of intrigue, that sense of mystery really does add to the early part of this level because you really have no idea what to do here. So you kind of just have to take a chance and open a door. Now I always head into this room here first. The reason for that is because it gets you the rocket launcher early on, but it also means that we can get rid of these pinkies. The thing is, if you're not really paying attention on ultraviolence, it's super easy to get swarmed here by the pinkies. And that's the thing with a lot of these rooms. There's always a trap, there's always a trick, and the player is kind of taught very quickly they have to be on their toes. But the traps are not overly complicated, so it's not like players can get absolutely lost in them. You can see there that wall has opened up, we'll be coming back to that in a second. But once you've completed one room, you can head into another. I love this room because when you shoot the shotgunner, you just kind of get ambushed by all of these cacodemons, and I think that this is the most cacodemons that are kind of together in one level up to this point, including all of the Doom 1 levels. Again, one thing this level really has going for it is the fact that it swarms enemies onto the player who normally doesn't get to see all these monsters in these numbers. To be fair, it's one of the levels in Doom 2 that really takes advantage of that sort of higher monster count and the bigger levels that Doom 2 was aspiring for. Of course, you can grab the plasma rifle to make things easy, and here's another trap that caught me out a few times when I was a kid. When you head over the line dev there, the wall actually opens up behind you, and you actually end up with a bunch of pinkies who will come in here and try to maul you. Now the thing is, if you haven't got any ammo, or you haven't grabbed the chainsaw, then this is actually going to be a bit of a pain, because obviously these pinkies are not going to let up, but that's why there's obviously a lot of ammo in here. And I think that's the thing. All of these little tricks and traps, there are ways out of them. It's not like the game is intentionally trying to kill the player, but they are putting them in situations where there's real danger if the player doesn't act quickly. And I think that that's what helps to set this level apart, because there's a real sense of urgency when you accidentally spring one of these traps and the player's sort of stumbling around, not knowing what's coming next, only to be greeted by all of these pinkies. Now, some people would say it's a bit unfair to kind of put the player in that position if they don't know what to expect, but to be honest, you know, it kind of goes with the vibe of this level. And also, the reward here is you can get a BFG, which is pretty magnificent. Also, when I was a kid, I used to love lining all the pinkies up on the floor there. I used to love trying to get it into as neat a straight line as I could. Don't ask me why, just something really, really fun. The other thing with this level as well is that you are not forced to tackle this in any particular order. So if you really do not want to come into this room with all the imps, if you don't want to deal with all of these imps, you don't have to. It's optional. It's here because it's a danger for new players who, for the first time exploring, they'll probably stumble into here, or they'll get teleported in here from another area in the level. But the point is, for veterans, you know what traps are here, and you know not to spring them if you don't want to. In fact, with tricks and traps, you can pretty much go straight for the yellow key if you really, really want to, because that room doesn't actually require you to do anything other than wait out the Baron's assaults on the Cyber Demon. But these rooms are as difficult as you make them. If you've kind of gone exploring, if you've gone and grabbed all the ammo and weapons that you can, then these rooms are actually not that difficult. Especially this one here. We're going to take down the Cacodemon. There's actually a chainsaw right behind the Cacodemon here, which I'm going to go and grab. But what I also like here is that it plays with the player. It sort of shows off the Doom engine in a different kind of way to what players normally would expect. Because normally you get maybe one or two of these traps in a level, but here you're getting them in sequence and you're kind of being forced to deal with them. What I also kind of appreciate as well here is that you can go into one of the teleports at the side, but if you pay attention, you can shoot the switch there. Well, a few times in Doom 2, you actually need to shoot a switch to do something of use, and you actually come to this middle section here with ammo, with health, and again, that's another thing. This level doesn't play keep away with health. There's tons of health around for players who really, really need it. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice those switches in the middle there, and you can take on the Pain Elementals here. Now, this is actually the first time you encounter these officially in the game. if you kind of skip over all these rooms, the first time you'll see them is in the next level. And like I mentioned earlier on, I think this room here is a much more fitting introduction for the pain elementals than in the pits, because in the pits, the lost soul limit has already been hit in the level, so it means that they kind of appear weak, they can't shoot lost souls, and I think this is just a much more interesting challenge because I'm standing here shooting the pain elementals from the side here, but if you stand in the middle, it's very easy to get swarmed by the pain elementals, and it becomes a bit of a fun encounter if you're, not ready for it. Years of messing up in this room have taught me to stand in that little alcove there. You can also see there's a box of ammo there, but obviously we're not going to grab that. Head into that teleporter and you can see that it actually takes us into the room with the imp. It's another little trap because if you head there and you're not fully expecting it, you have to deal with all those imps. This area is actually a bit of a secret, but it gives you a few rockets which are very, very useful. We can grab that whole bunch of ammo there. And then we're going to head into the titular room here. I'm going to ask you all up front, which side do you think is going to win this? Will the Cyber Demon be able to beat all the Barons of Hell, or will the Barons of Hell knock down the Cyber Demon here? I think a lot of people remember this room because this room is a bit of a culture shock. This is probably one of the most difficult rooms in Doom if you try to play this level traditionally. If you come in here shooting, all of these barons will turn around, they'll start teleporting through the door back into the starting area, and you've got a real problem on your hands then because you have to deal with all of them. Really what you have to do here is let the Cyber Demon and the barons do the infighting. That's the thing that you need to do. Now, oh wait, okay. He obviously, got to the back there. The barons have not pulled their duty here. I'm very disappointed in them. What I also like about this level as well is the music. I really like the use of the music on this one. It really fits the vibe of the level, and I also kind of like the look. I like that all these rooms have sort of different themes. It makes them sort of distinctive from each other, so you're not kind of thinking, well, this room has the same textures as the room we were just in previously. And I actually kind of appreciate that here. Now, it is possible for the Cyber Demon to teleport into the central area. Again, you do that, it kind of causes chaos because if you haven't cleared the other sections, they can start to intermingle, which is why I'm trying to compartmentalize how I deal with this level, because you don't want cross-contamination. You don't want enemies from one area wandering into another and causing a lot of trouble. Now, the thing with this room is that once you've crossed the bridge to get in here, you kind of have to get to the switch on the left-hand side there. Again, it's another fun little trap, and it's a swarm of enemies with some barons and imps thrown in, but there's also fairness here. You're given lots of ammo, you're given an invulnerability, so it's never truly unfair, and I think that that's what helps this level to be very, very fun, and I think that's what frustrates me about some levels that try to mimic this one. They don't understand that this level actually gives a lot of health. It gives a lot of ammo. It's very balanced in that sense. The level is filled with a lot of ammo and ways for the player to sort out their problems. So we're basically done here. You can see that this final room, this is the weakest part of this level by far for me. When you walk on this platform, it drops down, but here's the thing, if you cross this line dev here at the door and then step back, there's actually a teleport that opens up in this room, and in the Game Boy Advance version, there's actually a teleport that they've put in the Toxic down there, which really should have been there anyway in the PC version. I can't understand why they didn't do that. But overall, I really like Tricks and Traps. It's one of the more distinctive levels in Doom 2, and honestly speaking, it just sticks in the memory. I spent so many hours just playing through this level, having a blast with the hordes of enemies, messing around, just having a good time. And I think that, yeah, this room is pretty nasty. I'm not even going to lie about that. I just think that Tricks and Traps, while it doesn't have as many fans as I think, other levels do in Doom 2, I really, really appreciate this one. And the only thing I would probably say is, had they not put the two Wolfenstein levels as secret levels, I definitely think this would have been a strong candidate to go into that map 31 slot. I think this would make a super secret level, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Tricks and Traps, and it can be frustrating, and I do think that that ending room is very poorly designed. But let me know in the comments what you think of Tricks and Traps. Do you like this one? Do you hate this one? Do you think that it's misplaced? And let me know your thoughts overall.